What is up, entrepreneurs? You are tuned into the Non-Corporate Network. You are watching Entreprenews. Dustin, how are you doing today?
Doing good.
Nice. It is Monday. You guys better be getting after it. Thank you for stopping by. Just so you guys know the format, this is a show where two tech entrepreneurs talk all things small business, the top 6 trending small business stories we debate for 3 minutes each, give our takes, and then I get a gold medal hung around my neck. We stand and listen to the national anthem with me at the top of the podium, and then Dustin gets back to work and I bask in my glory. And that's the format.
And that's when Chaz wakes up from his dream, and then we hop in here, and then reality sinks in. So appreciate the follow-up on your dreams from last night.
Oh, gosh. This is content by entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs. That is the mission of the Non-Corporate Network. And Entrepreneurs is really just a combination of CNBC and ESPN. We want to make things that are fun to watch and keep you guys woke. You know, you don't have to worry about anybody in our pockets. We tell the unfiltered truth down here in Tempe, Arizona.
Absolutely.
Without further ado, are you ready to get into our first story here?
Let's dive right in. So a company called VisiPay, they have launched a new loyalty program called Rush. And so VisiPay, they're a merchant service program. So they take credit card swipes. They help businesses do that. They've come out with a program to help with loyalty, new customer acquisition, and online ordering. Their whole goal is to help brick and mortar become more digital, something that everyone can agree that is much needed. All they want to do is help with the lifetime value of a customer. The most expensive customer to get is a brand new one, and so their whole goal is to re-engage with your database, find people that have purchased with you, just get them to come back. Yep. My question is VisiPay. I've never heard of them, but there's been more and more of these companies popping up that are more of a one-stop shop to help with new customer acquisition, loyalty programs and whatnot. I mean, what are your thoughts? Is VisiPay going to be the leader in this?
My head's spinning just based off of that description. I have no idea what they do. I mean, I'm hearing loyalty program, I'm hearing payment processor, I'm hearing, a couple of other buzzwords in there. Notoriously businesses that try to start as the fire hose as opposed to finding that one thing that they're good at and building off of it. I mean, it sounds like they're getting into 10 different verticals, and I don't think that they have the brand equity or the pull to be able to, play in that many arenas, especially to stand up to the likes of Google and Shopify. So my gut instinct here is that they're not going to, make too many waves. But again, I think that this is a hot space, and they have just as big of an opportunity as anybody in terms of, trying to crack into this space, especially with the need for retargeting and small businesses trying to, squeeze everything they can out of their database to bring customers back. So I guess they're playing in an interesting area at least.
Yeah, I mean, there's companies for everyone. I mean, they might not be the Google or the Shopify that's going to help enterprise level companies get to this level, but those small mom and pop businesses that might have 1 employee, 2 employees that just don't have the funds to go with these larger companies, I think that's where they might have a space. And rather than just trying to focus on anyone and every business that needs this, it's maybe go to that smaller revenue shop that might not be able to afford the larger services. But to your point, I mean, the opportunity is for the taking. I've been saying there's a need for this for 5, 6, 7 years or so since first getting into this. I mean, everyone's always trying to go after new customers, and then just forget about their existing customers, people that have already taken money on their wallet to pay you.
It's on the treadmill at that point, Here's one thing to keep in mind is even if they spent $1, they're a customer. So, I think that's a big thing where, oftentimes businesses forget that just because somebody didn't spend $1,000 doesn't mean they're not still a customer. 80% of your revenue comes from 20% of your customers. So
love it. Cool. So going on to our next topic, 57% of companies are offering mental and emotional support during the pandemic. There's some very interesting facts. So 40% of employees feel less productive, and a majority of those people say that it's because they just don't get supervision. They don't get communication from their managers. A lot of it deals with communication and just not touching base. More than 50% of employers will continue remote work after this. So it's not like it's just going to end. People are going to be working remote.
Yep.
The companies that are offering something, what they're doing is more one-on-one meetings, but also giving more flexible schedules. So, I mean, it's not really that robust of what they're really trying to help. I mean, suicide rates are increasing during the pandemic. I mean, it's just not good. I guess the question is, how can companies help with this? I think that 57% should be a bit larger, but more so, I mean, with revenues going down, how can companies pay to help with that? Or is there something like insurance that can help with this?
Well, there's been a lot of policy change around mental health compensation by insurance companies. This has been an ongoing fight for the last 20, 30 years, where notoriously insurance companies are only going to compensate, physical ailments. And so, mental health is definitely coming into the fold. And, when we're all cooped up in our house, you're working in front of a computer, you don't leave one room for 12 hours a day. It's not healthy. So I'm not surprised that the number of mental health claims is rising. And only 57% of businesses that offer any kind of help. I think that number is definitely not what it should be. So, I think that there's definitely partially falls on your insurance companies to be more open to accepting these claims and creating policies that allow for those claims to be had. But there's definitely responsibility on the businesses, especially the big ones that are responsible for a large amount of these insurances revenue. It really starts with them pushing the insurance companies to go, this is what we want to see, and this is what we want to give our employees. I think that's what's going to create the fastest response. Other things that I've seen too that are interesting to me are some businesses compensate their employees with a benefits package that's outside of the medical side, where they are awarding them Netflix subscriptions, they're giving them Calm meditation subscriptions. There's a lot of different ways that you can use services like that to kind of bolster up the benefits package and also just help with employees' mental health. So I know exercise and meditation are great things and should be more accessible to the remote worker.
Yeah, I mean, with that many people saying that they're having difficulties, I mean, that cuts into efficiency, which then your revenue falls. I mean, from an insurance perspective, it's, with suicide going up, you're having attempted suicides, people are getting hurt, what you're
Cost
paying
them
out.
money too.
Yeah, what you're paying out is going to go up. So people just need to figure out how to help on this mental side. And I think it's going to take more than just a company, more than an insurance company to figure it out.
3 out of every 4 businesses minimum should be doing this, not 1 out of every 2.
So on to our next story. Microsoft warns of a new type of consent phishing attack, and that's not going out fly fishing, trying to catch some trout. What's going on is attackers are creating an app for productivity, basically creating free apps and creating them around popular segments or industries. And so as soon as you download the app, I mean, it's free, you open it, they'll ask for permission for certain things. Most people just hit accept because they just want their problem solved with whatever this app is going to do. And as soon as you hit accept, they essentially can attach to all your information, and they can create an API token and basically act as you, sending out emails, getting personal information. So, I mean, how it used to be done is you'd get a weird link from someone you might know. It'd be a weird email, but as soon as you click on the link, that's how they can get access to your system. So it's kind of more of a clever way to do this. I mean, what are your thoughts?
Well, when you're downloading it and then you're doing this API access token, you're confirming your password or whatever on you're clicking and confirming your email address, gives you a lot more flexibility to wreak havoc, take somebody's device over when you've given that many more permissions. So, I think it's obviously a big deal. And I mean, we talked about deepfakes last week. For those of you that don't know, deepfakes, synthetic media. And so, now you're able to create synthetic media around a certain person, and you're able to access all of these things just because they downloaded a free app. I think that it really kind of exposes companies like Apple, companies like Google, that it's their job to vet these type of apps that come on, and they need to know what's going on. I mean, but we're seeing, the thing with TikTok too. It's like, it may not be phishing, but it's blatantly sucking data out of people. Yep. And why does TikTok need to have access to my emails? So it's one of those things where we need to set up policies, and whether it's coming from Washington or whether it's just creating more defense. I mean, we talked about this before, but what the government's budget, they're spending 33% on defense. A normal business is not spending 33% on data security. I can get 0.33% maybe. You have one or two people that you're employing to do this, and it's just, I think that we need to be a little more woke, but unfortunately I think it's going to take some big issue happening.
And before that even happens, I mean, I'm not one for regulation or policy, but I mean, these attacks are taking personal data, which are the citizens of the United States. At what point is it a threat to the citizens? And that's what the government is for, to protect citizens. So, I mean, like I said, I'm not one for policy and stuff like that, but knowing that if companies are doing it, when does Washington come in and take a step into this?
We have short memories, Target, TurboTax, Instacart, all happened in the last 2 years. We don't even think about that now.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, before we get into our next story, we want to give a shout out to State 48. They are helping us put together this podcast. They're proud partners of ours. Want to give them a shout out. Amazing brand. They do a lot of amazing collabs. Anything else you want to mention about
Clothing for All, inspired by Arizona. They're huge with tons of nonprofits here. And part of the proceeds go to that charitable donation. So not all, but most of your purchases will go back to a good cause. And so they're just huge on community. So check them out, state48.com.
State 48. Getting into our next story, The Hustle conducted a survey of over 5,000 business owners and entrepreneurs, and 33% responded that they would be moving in the next 6 months. This is interesting. Obviously, there's a lot that's changing. Real estate is ever-changing, moving target, especially during COVID. Looking at some of the stats here, popular cities people are moving from: New York City, San Francisco. Popular cities people are moving to: Austin, LA, Chicago. So not necessarily a mass exodus from a large city to a small rural area, but I think there's something to be said about how this remote culture is allowing people to not have to stay where they are to be able to do the same job, not tethered to a specific zip code. What are your thoughts on people being so bullish on moving in the next 6 months?
Yeah, I mean, it's great. You never hear anyone talk great about how much traffic they had to sit in LA or Phoenix. So, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, with remote work becoming more of a thing, I mean, we mentioned it quite a bit. It's like, why not incentivize people to move out to more rural areas? Let's spread out a little bit. The cost of living goes down. You can then pay employees less, and they still have a good wage, which means you can employ more people or else bring down costs for consumers. There's a lot of good from there, but I think one thing that we might be missing out here is 33% of people said yes, but these are people that know that they're moving. Saw some interesting articles over the weekend that talk about forbearance is about to come to a close or have to be paid up. A wave of bankruptcies are coming because unemployment is going to be cut off. So I think there's going to be a huge wave of foreclosures, and people that don't know that they're going to have to move, they're going to have to. And so I think there's going to be a huge shakeup. But yeah, I think it's weird that you go from New York to LA. It's a huge expense to move cross country just to go from one super expensive place to another.
Hey, you're getting out of the high rise, man. I think that the COVID has kind of given us all this risk barometer, and obviously with protesting as well, especially if you have kids. Just there's a lot more risks to living in high populated areas, shoulder to shoulder with other people. And so, I'm not surprised to see this kind of decentralization of just people in general. But it'll be interesting to see how this one plays out. I think that the other side of this too is, like we talked about, Facebook was offering, hey, go live in Texas and we'll pay you equal to what you get in LA, but in Texas currency, if you will. So it's allows them to get out of LA, but then they're taking a hit Or do you think that more companies are going to be doing that, or do you think more companies?
I think the smart companies will. It's a cost analysis thing. It's like if you're not in the hustle and bustle, you have some people that want that. They'll be happier. Your cost goes down. So I think there's a ton of benefits from trying to figure that out. How where these rural areas are dense areas. How can we get people to spread out a bit? Surprised that Phoenix didn't show up with how spread out we are. I mean, I know we're in the headlines with
a lot of people are moving
COVID,
a lot of people are moving from from Cali to Arizona. It'll be interesting. Getting into our next story, Facebook is reportedly considering a blackout of political ads leading into elections between 24 and 48 hours prior to elections. They're considering just not running any political ads. Do you think this is a good play? Do you think this is going to help with some of the slander and hate speech and, misinformation?
Yeah, I mean, cutting it out for one day, I don't know how much positive that's going to do. I mean, we have several months of just throwing ads out there. I mean, I think there is something to say. There are a bunch of people that are on the fence the day before Election Day, and some of these could sway them one or another way. So I think there is something there. But I think, if they're trying to solve a problem, the problem should be looked at, and it's what's being said in these ads. Maybe we do something to where you can't even talk about anyone else except for yourself, what you believe in. I mean, all the ads that we see, it's all just, they're horrible, they're the worst person ever. You never hear about their agenda, the positive they're going to do, what's in their mind. It's just how bad the other person is. And so, I mean, outside of people still need information. They just, I think, less hate information or negative about the other person. So I see what they're trying to do. I think there could be some positives from a one-day blackout, but I think more discussion around what can people actually say in these ads is a better conversation to have.
Well, I mean, the subconscious conditioning over 6 months leading into an election, one day isn't necessarily going to change your mind. My personal thought is that we just need to ban all political ads on social media. I think that there's not a place for it. I think there needs to be a better, more readily accessible, unbiased place where people can do research on what candidates stand for, that sits separate and not in the pockets of any candidate. But I truly don't understand why, when 4 years ago our election was swayed by Russia, and doesn't seem like we've done much about it. Content moderation is still a huge headline. 900 businesses are boycotting Facebook ads because of the permutated hate speech that they're delivering in their advertisements. Why is it good to do this other than to make money? I mean, I'm sure that they're hurting for ad revenue right now, and so it seems kind of counterintuitive to their business model to self-ban more things when people are already boycotting it. But I don't think there's a place for political ads at all on social media.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing you kept saying there was hate speech, what's being said, and that's why I always go back to let's put rules around what you can say. I mean, I really think that, one, if you only allow people to talk about themselves, that you're not going to have that hate, but two, you're going to stick out amongst everyone else because everyone's just bashing every other contender that they're going against. So if you shine light on the positives that you're going to do, how your policies are going to help people and the citizens, I think you're going to stand out and you're going to sway more people that way than just saying, Martha McSally is horrible, don't vote for her. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, we see enough of that for sure. Well, getting into our last story here, Uber and Postmates announced a merger worth $2.65 billion. Uber Eats is ranked second on the charts of revenue on delivery services for food. Postmates is in fourth. And so combining these two giants is definitely a big news story. What are your thoughts? Do you think this is a good deal? And do you think that this is going to stifle innovation, or do you think that this is good for the industry?
I mean, it's with the merger, you're going to have a bunch more capital to work with. So I think they'll be able to innovate, but there always comes to a point where it's like, all right, we're dominant in this industry, so we're going to stop innovating so that we can pad our margins. And when that happens, you're gonna annoy the consumers, and they're gonna want something new, and then you're gonna have a bunch of startups. It's kind of the evolution of industries. I think one thing that's interesting though is the monopolies. I know that we brought it up quite a bit. Talk about Amazon quite a bit, but I think how people are skirting around it is there's multifacets to each business, and so it's like if you're in 20, it's like we're not taking up 70% market share in this one thing. Sure, overall we make tons of money, but this one little sector, we're not doing it. So I think having maybe another discussion around what constitutes a monopoly, I think might be worth having a discussion over in Washington.
You have 40% market share in 5 different businesses, and it's all housed under one business. Then, I think that, I definitely need to address it. The way I look at this is that history repeats itself. I can tell you what's going to happen right now. It's going to come down to 2 companies, whether DoorDash buys Grubhub or Uber buys Grubhub. It's going to come down to 2 companies. They're going to duke it out at first, and then they're going to realize that, we're the only 2 people in this industry. We can kind of drive the price up because we're the 2 options. And now who gets hurt? Consumers get hurt, and the small businesses that use these services get hurt because they got to pay more, and it just becomes something where even like drivers, they get paid less because now there's less options, there's less price competition. And so I think that the only people that are going to lose are everybody but these businesses, and then there'll be a point where there's an inflection point of now you're charging too much, and it becomes more relevant for a small business to just have their own delivery drivers, have a couple of people that are delivering, and then they save money. And so it just kind of depends on how greedy they're going to get over the next 3-4 years in terms of what the next disruption is going to be. I truly believe it's going to get unbundled, and then, small businesses are going to have their own delivery drivers internally. It takes like 5 minutes to spin up an app on half of these softwares. So.
Well, that was a good insight in your crystal ball. And I'd say, I agree. It's up to them on deciding their fate. You're either going to be for consumers or for margins. And as soon as you sway over to margins, you're going to piss people off. And then a huge wave of innovation is going to come. And so it's really up to them. It'll be interesting to see how they kind of navigate after this merger.
No, absolutely. I think that as Dustin puts it, only time will tell. But I think probably one of the biggest stories that stood out to me today was only 57% of companies offering mental health benefits. I think that that's something that needs to change. So if you are a business owner, talk to your employees, ask them how they're feeling, understand what's going on in their life outside of, getting work done, because it's becoming a bigger and bigger thing, especially when we're all kind of locked in our houses. So, that number needs to change.
Yeah, and I think Microsoft, the whole phishing thing, I think is pretty interesting. You got a lot of data at risk.
The writing is on the wall.
Yeah, I'm wondering when will either a 9/11 of security breaches happen, or will we, kind of see it on the walls, the writing on the walls, and do something about it before it happens.
We need to get some policy in place. We need to get some smart tech minds out in Washington. So.
Only time will tell.
Yeah, truly. Being reactionary as a leader, you guys are business owners, being reactionary is never a great habit to form, where you're making decisions based on things that are happening to you. So, let's maybe plan a little bit further ahead with some of these policies, and maybe we can avoid some of these big blips in things like cybersecurity, social media. But anyway, we appreciate you guys being here. I could talk for another 20 hours about that. Get after it today. Again, you are watching the Non-Corporate Network. This is Entreprenews, content made by entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs. You want to tell them how they can get a show started if they want to join the cause?
ncnbroadcast.com. We're, mentioned the Non-Corporate Network. We're trying to create more shows under the channel, and it's all geared towards helping entrepreneurs.
You don't have to be in Arizona. We can live broadcast you from Mars, so check us out, NCN Broadcast. Check us out on social media. And thank you guys for just being with us and supporting the cause. We're fired up. We'll be back here on Wednesday with some more stories for you. Reach out to us if you have a story you want to hear us debate, and you want to hear me take Dustin down again.
Dreaming again.
I'm sorry, you guys setting me up to just knock pins over here. So, thank you guys so much for being here. Again, my name is Chaz Vandemotter.
Dustin Trout.
We'll see you on Wednesday.